Beekeeper is directed by David Ayer and stars Jason Statham, Felicia Rashad, Jeremy Irons, Josh Hutcherson, and among others. And this story deals with Jason Statham, who is, as the title suggests, he's a beekeeper for this elderly woman, played by Felicia Rashad. And if you've seen from the trailer, essentially there's something that happens to where some things go wrong with Felicia Rashad, where she ends up getting scammed and loses all her money and stuff. And as the plot that goes along, it pretty much has it to where Statham goes after the people that did her wrong and stuff, and it becomes pretty much a personal vendetta against them. Now, here's a little backstory. Now, this movie was directed by David Ayer, who I've talked about countless times. He's definitely one of my favorite directors. He came from, writing movies like Training Day and stuff like that, but then when he got into other movies, they directed like Harsh Times, Street Kings, and then later with other stuff, like from what I heard from End to Watch and Fury, that I also really enjoyed. He's definitely has a really great way of making a lot of great fun, great gritty action films and stuff. And from the trailers to this, it got me curious, but it also looked like he was not taking it more of that kind of serious realm that he's known for in a lot of his films, where he takes that very gritty style. Instead, he was going for more of a, well, at least from what I've been hearing, it was essentially more of like a throwback to B movies of action films. And to an extent, it was also kind of giving me vibes of similar to what we had last year when it came to that Gerard Butler movie that came out, Plane, where it was essentially being like a throwback to 80s and 90s action films in a good way. And so going into this, I kind of had some just moderate expectations, not expecting too much and all that. But after upon seeing the film, I can say that I was really surprised by this. I definitely had a lot of fun. It is a film that, when you think of the concept and the way the movie goes along with its dialogue and stuff, it is cheesy, but it's like the movie has such a charm to it to where it's like it knows how ridiculous the plot kind of, the way it goes along, that it feels like it was one of those kind of action films that knows its identity. And I think this makes a great double feature with not only Plane from last year, but also to an extent with Cold Pursuit with Liam Neeson, on that you got that kind of like witty or clever or funny dialogue that's kind of like the equivalent of Shane Black type of speaking and stuff, and certain one-liners they throw here and there that really had me laughing my ass off, had me laughing throughout the theater. So to get my pros out of the way, I thought, Jason Statham, what can I say? He really brings his A game to this, as he always does. He's, kicks ass like you expect, but also he does get a lot of B puns that throughout, but they didn't bother me because the way that the movie goes along with its characters and stuff, and the way it doesn't take itself relatively too serious, I was still able to go along with the ride and make it feel like it's a lot more of just a fun, type of action film is what you come to expect from a movie like this. And Statham really shines this role with playing this kind of guy that's, as he described, is a beekeeper. And he does throw a lot of one-liners when it comes to the bees and stuff, and it does really sound really cheesy in the way that you could, the way it's written and stuff, but he has such that charisma that I still laughed and just had such a blast just seeing him kick people's asses. And also, him kind of coming out of retirement and stuff, because he's it essentially kind of takes more of a John Wick type approach in this, and in a good way. You could see this as kind of like a poor man's version of John Wick, but I don't know. I just kind of look at it as kind of its own thing, because it's really trying to, go for that kind of realm of having such, I don't want to really say self-aware, but that very kind of, feeling like you would see in a lot of movies, like the early days of Van Damme and Seagal and all that, in a good way. I mean that as a compliment. But he was great, and then I also enjoyed the rest of the cast. It's great seeing Jeremy Irons in this movie. I've always enjoyed him as an actor in a lot of his films, and it's also great seeing Josh Hutcherson in a movie. And I haven't seen Five Nights at Freddy's, but I'm glad that he's still getting work these days. I really do like him as an actor and stuff. And he plays quite a shitbag in this, where it's like, he's all about money and stuff, and he's all about trying to basically steal from a lot of elderly folks and stuff like that, and you could tell that he's one of those kind of characters where you want to see his comeuppance, and he's playing such a character that you kind of, I don't really want to say love to hate, but it's like, he does it really well for playing that kind of character. So he was great, and then also the action scenes, really brutal and also really fun in a lot of parts, especially when you have sequences that involve like this gas station where you have this kind of we have this fight scene that happens where one woman is going after Statham and stuff, and she brings out this Gatling gun, which I thought was a blast. And just the brutality and stuff that David Ayer is known for a lot of his movies doesn't hold back in this. There's a lot of scenes where I was just going like, ooh, damn. Especially when it gets to a climax that, I'm not going to go into spoilers, but let's just say that there's a one-on-one fight that has him and another guy, and just the brutality is there, and it really shows a lot of the shit that goes on. And in that scene, that did kind of this character that they bring in does remind me of something out of a comic book or something, or like a character that you would see out of Saints Row and stuff. But so this is in a way also not only kind of like the closest we get to kind of a Saints Row game, or a Saints Row live action film, but it just has such a charm to it that I can't get enough of. And the movie moves at a really fast pace where it's dealing with a lot of him going after the people that are involved in stuff. And it does get into some interesting stuff that I was, curious where the movie was going at times, especially when they bring in new characters like, I'm not going to go into too much detail, but let's just say that the President of the United States gets involved, and then you also have some other stuff where they're in on the whole situation with the government and stuff. And I thought that was really interesting where it was going. But this is kind of where, again, is shifting a little bit of my cons. And one of the things that I think does move back just a little bit is that when they bring in the FBI, these characters, these two FBI agents that get involved, I felt like it really seems kind of unnecessary, because as the movie is having it to where they're going after Statham and stuff, they're really just there to really explain stuff to the audience, what we already know. And I didn't really get into much of them, even though there was some funny lines that they were throw out here and there that I didn't mind so much. But I just felt like they were kind of unnecessary to the plot. One of the FBI agents is connected to the woman that's involved with the scam and stuff, which I can get as kind of a personal thing going on. But the problem is that there's not really a whole lot of focus with her character, of like really much about her. And you could also say that's really the problem where the script lies, that it does feel very kind of thinly layered, to where it does feel like in the beginning there's more that could have established a lot of stuff, especially with Felicia Rashad's character, that I really think could have took more time really building up to where it stands. Because in the beginning, the plot really kicks into gear at the beginning, and it feels like they could have spent more time with the actual development and where it was actually leading to. And that also is coming to play with the climax, because as much as I was on for the ride, I did feel like when it gets to the ending, it does feel it feels very rushed. And it could have went on longer, and there's more stuff they could have really wrapped up a lot better with, because they throw in actually quite a lot of character in this that don't really get much like resolution at times, and it seems like there was a longer movie that was probably that we could have had that would have made the movie a lot, that would have spiked it up quite a bit. But with that being said, though, it is exactly what I thought it would be, and I still had a really good time with it. With that, I'm going to give the movie a compelling grade on the Film Freaks meter. So, for those of you who have also seen The Beekeeper, let me know in the comments below what you thought about it, and thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next review. I'll see you later.